Our next high yield enzyme is Enolase. What this Enolase does? So from the previous reaction means conversion of 1,3-bis-phosphoglycerate into 3-phosphoglycerate by phosphoglycerate kinase, substrate level phosphorylation. From that reaction, you got 3-phosphoglycerate there. And that 3-phosphoglycerate will be converted to 2-phosphoglycerate. It is just changing the position of phosphate from third carbon to the second carbon. That's the only change. Done by phosphoglycerate mutase, phosphoglyceromutase, not an important enzyme. So you don't need to worry about this reaction. Now what happens? The 2-phosphoglycerate will be converted into phosphoenol pyruvate. 2-phosphoglycerate converted to phosphoenol pyruvate done by enzyme Enolase. And this is a high yield enzyme. That means you need to know the substrate and product of the enzymes. High yield enzymes, you need to know the substrate and product. Because sometimes in the choices, they may write the substrate to product this to this, this to this, like A, B, C, D, E choice. Ask you to identify which is that enzyme. Always it is good to remember substrate and product of high yield enzyme. So high yield enzyme here, Enolase. Substrate is 2-phosphoglycerate. Product is phosphoenol pyruvate. Look at the phosphoenol pyruvate structure here. Is there any speciality? There is a high energy phosphate bond here. That means this molecule, if it undergoes next reaction, it is able to produce ATP. Just like your 1,3-bis-phosphoglycerate. Okay, so this reaction generates high energy molecule, and the amount of energy that is stored in this bond here in the phosphoenol pyruvate, I have written here minus 14 kilocals per molecule, minus 14 kilocalories. What is the amount of energy that is present in ATP when you break ATP into ADP? Yesterday I wrote minus 7.3 kilocal, right? For ATP, it is minus 7.3. Whereas for this molecule, it is minus 14. That means almost double than that of ATP, right? So phosphoenol pyruvate is the most energy rich molecule in our cells. Although it's not asked anywhere, just in case. The most energy rich molecule, highest energy molecule in our cell is phosphoenol pyruvate. It is a the highest energy molecule. The highest energy molecule in our cell is phosphoenol pyruvate. So Enolase enzyme is going to create the highest energy molecule in the cell, means it is having minus 14 kilocals of energy. That's the importance of Enolase. Okay, now let's see the application of Enolase enzyme. Is there any applied aspect to Enolase enzyme? So if you inhibit Enolase enzyme, especially the bacterial Enolase enzyme, because bacteria present in our mouth, they are anaerobic. Predominantly, they are anaerobic. Anaerobic in the sense they conduct glycolysis in the absence of oxygen. The bacteria in the mouth, predominantly they are anaerobic. They conduct anaerobic glycolysis. So what will be the product of anaerobic glycolysis? Lactate. So they make lactate. Every time when the bacteria is trying to generate ATPs, it is using our glucose, the glucose that we eat in the food, and it's going to break that glucose into lactate, and it is going to release lactate back into the mouth, right? And the lactate, remember, it's lactic acid. You know lactic acid? Lactic acid, if you deprotonate it, it's a lactate plus H plus. That means more and more lactate coming out into our mouth around the teeth. It causes acidic pH there. It creates acidity around the teeth. And that acidity, that acidic pH, more protons, what it does is going to slowly erode the outer layer of our teeth called enamel. And that's how it will lead to development of dental cavities. It is all because of anaerobic activity of mouth bacteria causing anaerobic glycolysis. Okay, how do you prevent this? So one of the way to prevent it is you block any glycolytic enzymes in the bacteria, because they are surviving based on the glycolysis only, no other pathway. Their sole source of energy is glycolysis to get ATPs, and you target that glycolysis by blocking an enzyme. Okay, one of the way to block it is to block enolase enzyme. You may ask me, why not hexokinase, why not other? It could have been, but we don't have it. What they are doing, what is commonly practiced is we use fluoride, sodium fluoride in the toothpaste or anti-cavity solutions that we gargle, right? And that sodium fluoride is absorbed, is taken up by the bacteria also. It enters into bacterial cell and it's going to block enolase enzyme down there. By blocking enolase enzyme, it is not allowing glycolysis to be completed. If the glycolysis is not completed, ATP synthesis decreases for the bacteria. Then you may ask me, how about human? Like how about our own cells? Our own cells are generally not affected because the concentration of sodium fluoride that we use in the toothpaste is just sufficient to inhibit bacterial enolase rather than human enolase. That's why we are able to inhibit bacterial glycolysis and thereby prevent dental cavities. Whole idea here is not to allow anaerobic glycolysis to go on in the bacteria, thereby decrease that lactate which is released into the mouth, and thereby prevent the erosion of teeth. And that's how dental cavities are prevented. Okay, so that is what I tried to write here. If you read the flow chart, this is what I tried to write. As you see, the enolase enzyme, enamel of the teeth is sensitive to acidity. Enamel of the tooth is sensitive to acidity and all that, and then see there is a fluoride here, F2, fluoride, that inhibitory complex. 2-phosphoglycerate cannot access to the active site of enolase, reaction is inhibited, and then Streptococcus mutans do not get sufficient ATP. See, the bacteria that is causing dental cavities is Streptococcus mutans. This is an anaerobic bacteria. Remember this in case next semester microbiology, it will be helpful. Okay, things are connected. All right, so that's, and what is the mechanism of fluoride inhibition on enolase enzyme? You might have seen this in the table, non-competitive.